Hi,
Go.
welcome to this news episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host, Adeep Mahmood, with my normal co-host Hunter, and today we're going to be talking a little bit at MLB CBA, some Orioles, some Orioles news, some Virginia Tech athletics, and then some news in the combine, as well as some Ravens and Steelers. So let's start with the MLB CBA. They haven't reached a deal yet, but they have met a couple times in the last few days. Like, what were your thoughts, especially with all this, the four owners, the Scott Boras of it all? Like, what were your thoughts on
I think
any of that?
everyone has like such a big ego in this, especially the owners and Rob Manfred. I mean, we saw Rob Manfred literally laugh during that press conference to the media about not having a deal. And it seemed like he was happy about canceling the first 6 to 7 games of the regular season. What commissioner does that? I mean, that's just like Bush League stuff to me. I mean, people that take the owner's side, the owners, they didn't even talk to the players' side, I think, for 5 to 6 weeks before they finally decided to come back with an offer. And then talks heated up. It looked like, oh, maybe there was going to be a deal. But then the players say that deal was never close. The MLB is trying to cheapen out the players. That last proposal, I think, was basically a joke. I think, in my opinion, Adi, the 14 playoff teams is stupid. I think 12 is perfectly fine. I don't really think you need almost half the league. I know it happens in the NHL, NBA. I think for baseball, it's fine if not as many teams get in. There's 162 games, mostly, usually. You have time to make the playoffs if you are a really good team. You can go on a couple bad losing streaks and still come back and you're able to play well. But just the money overall, it's not close on a lot of topics. DH, I think, the the minimum salaries, I still think they're very far apart.
They're 25,000 apart.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was that. Just a whole bunch of issues that they talk and talk and talk, but nothing gets resolved. The four owners are that you mentioned. I think one of them is the Angels one. Mike
Still
Trout,
time.
buddy.
Yep.
Yep. Listen to the show, Mike Trout. I hope you somehow get the hell out of the Angels organization, somehow, some way. But it's just a slap in the face to the diehard fans of baseball because this sport is great. It's I know it's maybe not as fun to
And
watch as
a lot of young talent, a ton
there's
of
so
young
much.
talent.
The playoffs are awesome. The base atmosphere of a baseball game is always great, but for whatever reason, the owners just can't get out of their own way, and it's killing. And I mean, it's killing the sport. It's not. I'll say this: if this keeps up, it won't be long until the freaking NHL is probably the third most watched sport in this country, and that's usually a distant fourth. I'll say that. But with the longer this continues, the more this is going to push away a lot of fans, and that just doesn't sit well with me. Um, I know they're talking right now. That's great. But when is there actually going to be progress that leads to a deal? They've been doing this for the last several weeks. Nothing has changed. They've really barely even gotten close on almost all the issues. And everyone just wants to be stubborn. I mean, mainly the owners, I should say. Maybe the players haven't budged a little bit, but, I am going to side with them because they do deserve to be paid and they do deserve to have a lot of these benefits. It's unfortunate that it's got to this point because when they first went into the lockout, they didn't really talk those first several weeks. There's obviously a lot of bad blood, which I get, but you waited too long. This is the result. Now you're canceling games. You're pissing off the fans. Rob Manfred can write whatever stupid letter he wants to the fans. It's all a bunch of corporate BS to me. A lawyer wrote that statement. Let's be real here. A lawyer / PR person probably wrote that. He doesn't give a crap about baseball. I remember he called the World Series trophy. You probably have the quote.
Yeah, a piece of metal or something like that.
Yeah. He's never given a crap about the game. I know he's the mouthpiece for the owners. That's what all commissioners are. But it's just a really sad time, I think. And everything.
Yeah. So here, my take. I agree with most of what you're saying. I will say that it is somewhat of a bad look that most of Max Scherzer is great, right? And I don't want to
Yes.
cross. I don't want to engage in a debate with someone with two colored eyes. Okay, there's a reason he has the nickname Mad Max for a reason. That being said, Max Scherzer's making $43 million a year. Okay, how many of those guys are on that board for the players are Scott Boras clients, right? And Scott Boras, what's the MO about Scott Boras? He's not going to leave money off the table. That's the biggest thing here.
Yes.
So yeah, you can say about the owners. Look, I'll say about the four owners: the Reds owner, and the Diamondbacks owner. They're not worth as much as the other two. Again, I think the Reds owner's worth like 400 million or something like that, or something. They are one issue. The Tigers owner, I don't understand that one. They are worth a ton of money. I understand they don't give out these massive contracts. I mean, the Prince Fielder one didn't work out so well. The Miguel Cabrera one hasn't worked out so well, even though he was pretty good last year. I don't get Artie Moreno at all. I don't get it. Like, you give Trout that much money. You give Pujols that much money. You give Rendon how much money? Like, he was lucky. He's probably lucky that Ohtani was just a rookie because Ohtani's a free agent pretty soon, and I don't think Ohtani wants to be a part of that
Can't
organization.
wait to see that contract.
Yeah, and then you have to imagine Trout might ask for a trade because if Ohtani goes, Trout's going as well, and it's not like the Angels don't. The Angels really don't have a good farm system. They don't have pitching. I mean, their top guys like Joe Adell is not a guy that you can really build around. Like, I know he was really hyped. Rendon, I don't know what's going on with him. I mean, the Angels, that's a franchise I think they need to change owners. Especially if you're willing to be that cheap. And I heard that Moreno was a guy that opposed the 5-round draft in 2020. He
Okay.
wanted to cancel the 2020 draft. That's how, and that's really weird. So I look, I mean, but also we also have to factor in the players. I will criticize the players in this one regard. I did kind of mention it, kind of lead into it. It's Scott Boras clients. We do have to recognize that is part of the story. So that's why they are holding out on the money thing. I don't think that the idea of 250. I don't think that is beneficial in the long run because the problem with 250 is what's going to happen with it's not competitive balance. At what point is that number become too high where the balance isn't there? Like if it's 250, the Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, they're just going to buy out those big contracts, and I think that's the big issue there. So I think there's some selfishness from the players. There's some selfishness from the owners. I think it's really just the players want money. Basically, here's what it is: the owners are so used to lording over everyone else, expecting them to kiss their ass, and not having them tell them how much money they should get. So what are CBA negotiations? People making less than another person, not kissing their ass, wanting
Yes.
a bigger share, and the owners are hardwired to act a certain way. So I, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I think for them to get an agreement, they have to do something where I understand they had the 14-team playoff, but it was like a ghost win or something.
Max Scherzer proposed that yesterday. He said, so the top team in each
Yeah, get to 1-0.
yeah, the top team in each league, when they play the other team, the lower bottom seed, they should have a 1-0 lead to make it harder, which is interesting, but I also don't know if that's truly fair. What I would do, and I would love to see this in all sports, I think the MLB would kind of do this. I think I saw in the proposal. Have the top teams just pick who they want to play. I mean, make it a show. That would be cool. Have like a show on ESPN, TBS, something like that. Okay, we're going to cut to the Los Angeles Dodgers. You have the number 1 seed in the National League. Who do you want to play? Oh, we want to play that. I just think that would be like a cool spectacle.
The
Or
T
something like
and the NBA all literally has the captain picking their roster on live TV, so you can easily do that. And I like the strategy of it. So I mean, we'll see what they do with.
and it sets up a
Well,
lot of storylines, steps up a
yeah,
whole lot of storylines.
yeah, and then also I think the pre-arbitration pool. I'm not going to explain what that is because I'm not clear what that is or something. But my point is, was that one? They're now 50 million apart compared to what it was at the start, which was like 100 or something, or 90, whatever it was. So I think that if they can get close to that, I think you're going to start to see a lot of things there. So let's move on to another topic here, which is this is a story that came out a few days ago. So pretty much, so Raul Ramos, who is a baseball writers, he's a newer member of the Baseball Writers Association, and he's based in the Dominican Republic. He actually posted this story that the Orioles were interested in and willing to give Carlos Correa 10 years, 300 million plus. Now, obviously, because it's the Orioles and it happened during the lockout, no one really cared, unless you're an Orioles fan, about that news. And I don't think a lot of people still don't know that. So, but then he went on the Glenn Clark radio show the next day, and this is what made it tangible. This is why I think this contract's real. He said that they offered him that contract before the lockout. It was 10 years. It was 320, 330, or somewhere in that range. It was going to be 44 or 45 million the first 2 years, and then 29 or 30 the remaining 8. And then he said the reasoning behind that contract is because it's kind of, he didn't use this example, but to put it in perspective, it's like the quarterback on a rookie deal type thing, where while your quarterback's on a rookie deal and you don't give him an extent, you're not get while he's not on an extension. If there's another guy you want to be paying a lot of money, what you do is you front load that contract. So the later part of that contract, that player's making less, but because it's front loaded, he's already making a larger percentage. So while Adley Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez and DL Hall and some of these other prospects are making the minimum salary, whatever that is, whether it's 700 or 725, Correa is making 45. So the idea is it could be a situation where 10 years, 330, it's 45 million a year for the first two, it's 30 million for the next 8. So basically, if Rutschman and Grayson Rodriguez come up this year and they start making money in their fourth year, Carlos Correa is already making 120 million. He's already made 120 million out of 330 in this potential contract. So because of that, I think because he gave details that it was a tangible contract, that made it sound tangible. I think the offer was there. Now, I do have my thoughts on why I think this benefits Correa and this benefits the Orioles, but I want to hear your thoughts as someone who's not an Orioles fan, but as like a general baseball fan. What are your thoughts on this deal and what it could mean?
Really speed along the rebuild, I should say. And whenever you get a star player like that, I mean, it goes a long way. I think that's really the first step that like a rebuilding team can take to getting
Like
competitive.
the Nationals Jason Worth.
Yeah, that was their big deal. They were starting to not lose as much. They were, I think, right around 500, I believe, at the time.
Yeah.
And the next year they go out and win 98 games. They were ready to take that next step. Harper was coming up. Strasburg was already there. The future was in place. With the Orioles, they still, I think, have a decent ways to go. They have obviously a good farm
Right.
system. Um, so they have some good young players that are already up. But to get Correa, a veteran who's won a World Series, and has also played in a couple others and has gone on long playoff runs, that's also like a good leader in like the locker room, and also someone, of course, who's really good at the game. So I think it does make sense from their perspective. It'll all just to be a matter of, can they pay him what he wants, I think, and will he want to go to a team that's not going to probably contend at least probably for the next year or two.
Right. Yeah, and I wanted to wait for you to say your point because I think I do have some counterpoints to what you just said there. One is,
Okay.
yeah, will Carlos Correa be willing to do this type of deal where you're not likely going to win that first year? Well, I'll give you a quick example. Remember 2018? Remember how there was a shortstop that wanted 10 years, 300 million,
Yeah.
and he wasn't getting that contract, and then what happened? Oh yeah, a team like the team like the Padres, who wasn't winning, who had a great farm system. They came in at the last minute around spring training and they offered Manny Machado 10 years, 300 million, basically telling him, "Hey, this is the situation we're in. Here's the situation we expect to be in for the next few years. We think you're the next building piece." And I think the first thought that came into my mind is this is pretty much a very similar situation. Carlos Correa, shortstop, wants 10 years, 300 million plus. There's some teams that are after Machado that might be after Correa. Orioles have a good farm system. They're not expected to win. It's like a similar type story. Now, why would Correa in this situation want to go to the Orioles? Well, here's why. The Orioles GM is Mike Elias. Now, if you follow Mike Elias' career path, he was one of the main figureheads of that Houston rebuild. It was him, it was Sig Mejdal, who's right now the Orioles assistant GM, and Jeff Luhnow, as well as some others that went from St. Louis to Houston. And this is in 2011. Elias he started as a scout, then ran their drafts, and then became the assistant GM, and he was running the minor leagues. I'll give you one guess. Name one guy you think. Name one guy that he scouted. I'll give you one guess. Who do you think it is? It's a guy we just talked about. Yeah.
Oh, Correa, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he was the guy that scouted Correa for Houston for the #1 overall pick. So you have to imagine he's scouting him for the #1 overall pick. Because at that point in time, he was like a top 10 talent. We didn't think no one thought he wasn't a slam dunk #1 overall pick. I mean, I think in that situation, he might have been going #6 to the Cubs that year. I think that was a team that was really interested in him.
Yeah.
Now, so if you're scouting someone for the #1 overall pick, you're looking at it from a similar perspective as you would if you're going to offer him a 10-year deal. I think that's a fair assumption to make. Like, if you're going for #1 overall pick and you're looking at someone for a long-term deal like this, it's a very similar perspective. So he definitely has that connection. It doesn't stop there. I mentioned Sig Mejdal, assistant GM of the Orioles, built the analytics department in Baltimore, built the analytics department in Houston. Doesn't stop there. Eve Rosenbaum, director of baseball operations in Baltimore. She was a scout, international scout in Houston. Chris Holt, pitching coach in Baltimore and director of pitcher development. He was a part of that Houston rebuild in 2014. Brandon Forney, he's going to start this year as director of baseball strategy. You want to know where he was director of baseball strategy the last 3 years? Houston. So you see how Baltimore is bringing in all these people from Houston to Baltimore to running a Houston-style rebuild. So it's almost like we need to, if the first guy we sign needs to buy into an idea that a Houston-style rebuild can work. Carlos Correa was the Adley Rutschman of the Houston rebuild. So it makes sense from the Orioles' perspective that they would spend money on Correa because Correa, you mentioned being in the playoffs, being a leader. Well, not only has he done that, and not only can he help the Orioles, but Carlos Correa, what he has done, he came out of this system. He was the guy that was drafted #1 overall. He went through the minor leagues. He went through the rough years, like the years that were rough. And he came out on the other side a World Series champion. And I do not care. Let me rephrase this. I do not care that he was a part of the 2017 team. Because chances are, everyone listening, someone on your favorite team at any point in time did something bad.
Probably.
Yes, let's make that point clear. So we can't afford to pick and choose what we do. So now the other question with Correa, is the market drying up for him? We know that. I don't think the Cubs would be willing to pony up 10 years for him. The Yankees seem to be might not be willing to go 10 years. The Astros might only be willing to go 6 or 7 years. So if you're leaving money off the table by signing a deal with another team, I don't think Scott Boras is going to do that. I think that if the market really dries up, because here's the other thing, Chris Bryant is a free agent. Trevor Story is a free agent. Nick Castellanos is a free agent. The Yankees might want to trade for Matt Olson. So if you're the benefit that the Orioles have in this situation, I'll end with this point, is that they can focus on Correa. They can focus their efforts on finishing this deal with Correa, whether it's doing $45 million a year for the first 3 years and 30 to kind of clinch that deal. They can do that. The Yankees now have to decide, what are they doing at first base? Is it going to be Rizzo? Is it going to be Freeman? Is it going to be Olson? Are they going to go try to get Chapman? What do they think about Volpe? What do they think of like the Cubs? What are they going to do there? The Mariners, are they going to go after Chris Bryant? So I mean, it's going to be interesting once and once the CBA is done. I think we're going to have a topic on our show like how wild this free agency is going to be because it is going to be
Oh,
interesting.
yeah.
So let's move on to football. The NFL Combine was this week. What were your thoughts on this?
I don't usually watch a lot of the combine, though. I was working a little yesterday, Deed, and seeing Jordan Davis absolutely shred that 40-yard dash. I like to think of myself as a decently quick guy for being skinny. I would not want that guy running right at me. That's for damn sure. I think I'd probably die, or I might
Yeah,
would flash.
imagine Pat's at what another 10 pounds.
Dude ran a 4.79 as a defensive lineman. Bro, that guy would smoke almost any guy probably. like compared to I'm not going to compare myself to a world class athlete, but like, wow, that is just these people are just so quick. I mean, Malik Willis has a cannon of an arm. I don't know if you were watching that. I mean, that was crazy to see him uncork some throws like that. I think I saw Barno yesterday. He had a nice 40 time.
4.36. That was official.
Yeah, that's really good. I think it's the best defensive lineman one.
And I think his 10 cone time was like 1.5 or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I just, I don't really like watch a lot of I used to as like a kid, but like I think it's just like, I mean, I can get the measure. I can basically see it happen on Twitter. I can see where they run. I don't need to watch it live on NFL Network. Obviously it's good to see the players show off their skills. The draft is very close now, about a month and a half, I think. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really do much for me because there's usually not a lot of news that comes out of it. I mean, wow, this team is meeting with this team. It's like, yeah, team probably meet with like over 50 prospects. Who knows if they're going to actually take them? But where we'll really start to see when we will really start to see news will be in a few weeks once you start to hear rumors about who's the top team going to take, because those lists are being finalized. So while it's still good and fun to obviously see some interesting stuff happen, I don't usually go out of my way and watch it though. There were a couple of things that definitely stood out.
Yeah, no, I think for me here's the first thing.
Yeah.
What did the Georgia football team feed their defensive line, and where can I get that? Because it's not just Jordan Davis. Like Devontae Wyatt ran a 4.77 and he's a big dude. He's like what 6'3", 290 or something in that range. Trayvon Walker, 6'5", 272. He ran a 4.51. I'm
Jesus,
not kidding.
what the
So
heck?
So I don't know what they feed those. I don't know what they feed those guys at in Georgia, but dang, that's the big thing. For me, I think it means this edge class is gonna be really deep. I mean, there's a lot of athletes there. I mean, I think Boy Mafe was pretty good. I was a little disappointed with David Ojabo's 40 time. He went in at a 4.61. I thought he was gonna be at a 4.4, more like a 4.5. So it's a little disappointing. It was interesting seeing those drills because I'm with you. I don't really watch the combine, but some of those drills are pretty interesting. But here, I mean, Trey Turner also ran a 4.41, so that's going to help his draft stock. Amari Bonner ran a 4.36. That's going to really help his draft stock. I mean, it's gonna be it's easy to get caught up. Let me put it this way, guys. Let me put it this way, Hunter. It's easy to get caught up in the combine numbers.
Yes.
But basically it is the underwear Olympics. Let's be honest. It is anyone can be trained to do this stuff now because what the biggest telling thing is the raw athletic scores of these guys. Like there's a lot of guys that are above a 9. There's a lot of guys, and some of these guys, their game tape doesn't match what you see here. So it's exciting. You can salivate over the prospects, but it's just another important thing to note. Watch the game tape and then see if the game tape matches the speed that they're showing in a combine. That's the biggest thing we have to look out for. So we'll move on to Ravens Steelers. Was there anything on the Steelers you want to talk about?
I mean, it's kind of like the same stuff. Oh, I did see today. I think where was that report at? The Steelers, I think, are pretty interested in. I think Ryan Jensen of
Yeah,
the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That would be that would probably be, I think, one of the best free agent signings they'd ever make. No, I'm not even joking. You know, for a team that has a lot more cap space this offseason, Kevin Colbert has said multiple times that, I think they're willing to be more aggressive this time. But this would be great for such a young line. He's played at a very high level these last several years. Can play a lot of different positions. If there's a player that I would break the bank for in free agency, I would give him a boatload of money. He's been really good with Tampa Bay. He's been really good in other stops. That would be a slam dunk in my opinion. I know I saw the Aaron Rodgers rumors over the weekend. I'm not getting my hopes up. Let's just say that. I mean, when he makes a decision, he'll make a decision. If it's not Green Bay, it's probably Denver. I also don't think the Steelers are going to pay the price going to give up. I know Kevin Colbert has said numerous times that they're going to look at all avenues, free agency, the draft, free trades. There was a rumor I think this past week that Tony Pauline said that the free agents that they've circled: Teddy Bridgewater, Jameis Winston, Mitchell Trubisky. I don't really know why so many teams like Trubisky, and I've read today, apparently when I was working, that teams want to maybe give him 10 million plus per year.
I don't know if he's worth that much.
Well, I'll pass. I'll say that. I mean, did he lead the Bears to the playoffs twice? Yes. Now, did he also have a good supporting cast around him? Sure. But he also kind of fell off a good bit, I should say, throughout that time. He was a decent backup in Buffalo, but am I willing to bet on him to be like a long-term starter? No. Teddy Bridgewater, I think he is who he is at this point. He doesn't take a lot of risk. Jameis Winston would be fun for shits and giggles because he's a high chaos kind of player. But, I still think they should rather, look elsewhere. If they want to do the draft, I think they would have to trade up for Willis. I would love to grab him, but he's not going to fall to 20. That's the reality, I think, of the situation there.
Does the hand size of Kenny Pickett scare you?
Not really. I don't really look at that too much. I mean, I know everyone's making jokes about it, and it was funny because his hand is probably not even nearly as big as mine here. But I don't really care that much. There's a lot of rumors. More rumors I think than normal surrounding the Steelers. I'm kind of sick and tired of the quarterback situation. If I could not hear about it for like one day, I would love it. We'll see what the team decides to do, who they're going to bring in. I don't know, but it's a wait and see. I know this is obviously a topic that we haven't had to discuss before because they haven't had to look for a quarterback before in a while, but I'm just like so over it. I just want them to get it over with at this point, but nothing really else, I don't think, for Steelers related.
Yeah, so for the Ravens, I think the big thing, I don't think there was, I mean, most of it was on the combine. All right, so the big thing here is that, look, Jason La Canfora cannot be trusted. Like, let's be fair. Let's be fair. Jason La Canfora is not a good reporter. Like, this is a guy that said that Harbaugh was going to get fired, and then he had a 4-year extension, and I don't like he would. I don't know who his sources are, so I don't trust him at all. And Lamar Jackson does not have an agent. He has a tight inner circle. Apparently, it's so tight that the Schefter's of the world can't get to him. So
Yeah.
what makes you think that I trust Jason La Canfora's word? I understand he's more local, but I don't trust him at all in this situation. Now, basically, the article said, here's what basically the article said. Lamar is preferring a shorter deal. The Ravens prefer a longer deal, but what people glommed onto was $35 million a year. Now, remember how I said about Correa and how the reason I believe the offer was real that the Orioles gave him was because there was enough information to make that contract tangible. It was with with this 35 million a year thing. How many years was it for? We don't know. That wasn't answered. What percent guaranteed? We don't know. That wasn't brought up. It's very speculative. It just sounded like a very speculative piece where the whole point was We want more clicks. How can we get more clicks? Oh, let's talk about Lamar's contract. And then you look at it, especially the Kirk Cousins part. It's like, oh, he could go the Kirk Cousins route. Now, isn't that very convenient that he comes out with that article a few days after Ian Rappaport talks about the possibility of him going to Kirk Cousins route? It just seems like locking for his source might be speculation from Rappaport. And I think that to me, it's very dangerous. And I think there's a lot of Ravens fans that want to discredit the Ravens front office and saying they're disrespecting Lamar Jackson. So these types of articles are really dangerous because they're not informative. So now you got people saying, oh, they're disrespecting Lamar by saying giving him $35 million a year. But what's the contract looking like? It's like, so that's just an announcement. Just hey, be really careful about this stuff. And I think that they will get a contract done. I think that it will probably be 4 or 5 years. It's probably a shorter deal. But nothing really else came from the Ravens thing. It was other than the combine. So we'll end the show with Virginia Tech athletics. Um, so what were your thoughts on? We'll start with men's basketball on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think they might have blew just a huge chance yesterday. That game was so frustrating because I felt like they had it won numerous times, but they couldn't hit a shot down the stretch. And I think that's been one of their biggest problems all year. Luckily, Joe Lunardi did not drop them out of his first four out. I guess because some of the teams on the bubble lost. But the fact of the matter is, they're going to have to win their second round game. They're probably then going to have to score a massive upset in the quarterfinals. And then they may have to win their semifinal game to get an at-large bid. If they get to the final, they absolutely will go to the NCAA tournament. There's no problem there. But to do that idea, they got to be one of Clemson and NC State, which is doable. They got to beat Notre Dame, which they already have. But then they may have to beat a team like North Carolina, which they have not this year. That team just crushed Duke last night, and seeing their fans so sad about Coach K was kind of funny. Obviously, greatest coach of all time in college basketball, but it's just the road is that much tougher now. There's no margin for error. I think they're probably going to be a 1 or 2 seed at the NIT. I'm not ruling out a berth in the tournament because the underlying numbers are still pretty good. It's just that they cucked themselves early in the year, left them no room for error, and the door was there. If they won that game yesterday and they won a game or two at the ACC tournament, they would have gotten a bid. Now you have to win at least 2, probably at least 3 to go to the tournament. And that's just going to be really freaking tough. If you didn't lose to NC State and you didn't lose to Boston College, you're at 21 wins right now, and you probably need one more win. And that Clemson loss probably wouldn't have made a difference. That's what just totally screwed them up.
Yeah, and then basically, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there with this team. This team is good, but it's very streaky, and I think that's the thing is like they ended up finishing the game like 1 out of 10 at the end. Which look, if you're finishing 1 out of 10 in a close game, you're going to lose most of the time. And I think that they have talent. The problem with this team is it seems like when they are on a cold streak, it's ice cold. When they're on a hot streak, it's red hot. And it just so and then they get bad luck for them because they're on a cold streak for at the worst possible times. Like you go back to the UNC game, I think there was like a period of 5-6 minutes where UNC didn't score for like 5-6 minutes in the second half. But you saw when Virginia Tech was taking shots, they kept missing, and they were getting open looks and everything. And so that's what's kind of doomed to them, especially in the last couple of months. So you're right. I think it's gonna be really tough for them to make the tournament. But even if they do make the tournament, honestly, I don't see them going far, not because of talent, but because they're so streaky that when they do have these, it's just you're just waiting for that cold streak to happen, and it's going and it likely happens in like the anywhere between with 7 minutes left in the second half to where 2 minutes left, and it's sort of like you had that much time that if you just made a couple of shots here and there, you would be in better shape for the last minute or two. But because you weren't, and most of the time these aren't like hard shots. These are easily makeable shots. They just get bad luck, I mean that's kind of that's been the story of really Virginia Tech basketball for the last few years, because they've been like a good 3 point shooting team, and this is going back all the way to Bucks, right? They've been a good 3 point shooting team, but there are moments where they're ice cold, and I think that's kind of where um, that's one of the biggest frustrations. Women's basketball, they went to the semifinals. So let's talk about women's basketball for a second. They went to the semifinals of in the ACC tournament. They lost to NC State. Now, the issue though was that they also didn't have the ACC Player of the Year, Kitley, and someone else. So and another player as well. So I mean, they were. This is a story. This is a team that probably should have gotten more respect from Virginia Tech athletics, but
I
they
think
did.
there should be a 4 or 5 seed in the NC in the women's tournament. I think there'll be a 4 or 5.
Yeah, they did and they did, and give credit to them. They did a really good job there. And then you have Virginia Tech baseball. They are I believe they are 7-1 or 8-1 right now. And in today's game, let me check the score in today's game. But last time I checked, it was like 15-0 Virginia Tech, 15-1 Virginia Tech.
They're killing teams right now, man.
Yeah, and I mean it's a lot of fun. I think Virginia Tech it's a lot of fun. Like their baseball team, our baseball team is a lot of fun, especially when they hit the home runs, because like the whole hammer thing is like a lot of fun. Oh, it's
Yeah.
here's the score: top of the ninth, 17-1 against Wright State.
What's their record this year, VT again?
8-1, 8-1.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and then and I think let me just see the name of this guy. So Drew Hack. So I think and today's starter was Drew Hackenberg, who is the younger brother of Christian Hackenberg. He went 7 innings, giving up 1 run. So he's kind of like one of their bigger recruits. So it's gonna be pretty interesting to see what they do there. And then we'll end the show with that note. Next week we'll talk more. If there's baseball news, baseball news. We'll talk a little bit about free agency as well. And then some more
Moving
about
forward, we'll try to have our shows at 3:00 on Saturday because I finally have Saturdays off. So
yeah. So we're gonna start doing it at 3 o'clock on Saturdays, unless there's something that we have to reschedule. But yeah. All right. So we'll see you guys next week.
we'll be back next Saturday.